So this whole situation of us talking to Dr. Hon Pak was part of the Unpacked event earlier this year. It was during that time, and actually the very morning of this conversation, I saw him for the first time on a panel talking about the role of AI in health tracking. I get why this conversation needs to happen, and also with Dr. Pak. But why did you really want to have Dr. Han Pak on this show?
So actually, when we started having this idea for this program, it was after Galaxy Unpacked last year when they teased the Galaxy Ring.
Hmm.
They then invited us to this like secret one-on-one where we were able to see the Galaxy Ring months before it was done. We got to try it out.
Mhm.
But the demo was given by Dr. Pak, and it was more than just a Galaxy Ring. It was about what the company had invested in health. And it was the first time that I heard that one company had a physician on staff, that the decisions were made by physicians, and it just really spun off the rabbit hole of me wanting to understand everything because it wasn't just the ring. It was their health metrics and
Mm.
how Samsung Health works, how they've been building it out, and how they're not even close to where they want to be. Now, Josh, I have made so many videos on social media, on YouTube, comparing the accuracy of wearables. Like, that is a thing for me. I care which watch is doing the better calorie count, particularly because when I run Maffetone. So I care
Mm.
about where my heart rate zone is as I'm running. If I'm doing easy runs, I need to stay in blue or in green. And for me, this conversation with Dr. Pak made it really fascinating to learn that once you try to compare them to medical grade products, it's an entirely different conversation,
Mm.
mainly because they're by design different and therefore not necessarily one better than the other, just different.
Yeah, it was a bit of a revelation to hear that part, that we shouldn't be looking at our health tracking wearables as accurate as medical devices. It was kind of a fallacy, actually, to kind of think of them that way. However, I do agree with that assessment because I actually use what is kind of considered a medical grade device in
Hmm.
the Dexcom CGM, continuous glucose monitor, the G7 in particular. I know that the reading I get every 5 minutes may not be totally accurate to what my actual blood glucose reading is, but it's giving me an idea, the trend of what my blood sugar is actually doing. And that's really what I have to act upon. And I guess that's exactly what all these wearables are trying to do as well. Do you ever fall into the trap of wanting the exact number, though?
I do, but it's mainly because how else would you know which one is better than the other?
Sure.
Each company is doing or approaching health differently. They have different physicians, different facilities, different testing, different algorithms. And so you want to know which company is doing the better job in the
Right.
end, because whether you like it or not, like if I'm training Maffetone for a marathon, I want to know which watch is doing the best job at telling me exactly where I am. And not every company does a good job at this.
So the journey, we've been on this journey, Samsung Health, for about 13 years. Started as very basic step counts, right? Very basic tracking, food logging, some basic things. And it's now evolved with the introduction of the smartwatches and the sensors that have matured now that are doing everything from arrhythmia detection that's FDA approved to sleep apnea that's FDA approved, right? So we've come a long way in terms of sensors becoming more medical grade like. And I think the whole industry is moving that direction. I think you're seeing graying of medical devices and consumer devices, and it's beginning to blur. In terms of your question about accuracy, I would say that um, you can't do a head-to-head comparison because think about an MRI. You don't go to a MRI center and say, oh, I'm going to just move around. Whatever the device measures, you should, right? No one does that. But
Exactly.
with a wearable, it's different because you can't tell them to sit still. So it's really interesting if you begin to think about it because people typically ask this question, like, how good are you on a medical device? So if you kept the same control environment, depending on which sensor, it can get pretty close. But obviously, we're not medical grade in all of our measures. Don't get me wrong. Nor are we trying to do a one snapshot of the most accurate for that time of n. What we're trying to do is series of n and see what the trending is, right? So it's a different use case. But also you have to do it in the context of people not wearing it quite tight enough, people doing weird things that you don't even expect to do with their wearables. It is in that construct that you begin to try to optimize. Again, not trying to achieve medical grade right now, but to do it in a way that begins to show context. Because I think this is what's important. When you go to the physicians, when you go to the clinics, you get a snap, right, in time, and you measure that, and then doctors then use that as a way to extrapolate, and therefore you are okay, you're not okay, and make changes.
And the person didn't move at all, which is
Right.
exactly.
But in the home setting is the 99% of the context, right? Someone comes into the clinic, I rarely ask them like, oh, did you sleep okay and whatever, because I don't have time. I'm just saying, what's the chief complaint,
Yeah.
right? And yet there's a whole bunch of context that's relevant to that. So this morning we talked about the Vitals Plus,
Mhm.
which is today's vitals are respiratory rate, heart rate, blood pressure, right, weight, things of temperature. But what if you knew the other four pillars? How this patient slept, how this patient exercised,
Mhm.
right? Stress level. It would change how we practice. And that's what we talked about today. And so I think part of this is about, yes, we're moving towards medical grade. The sensors are getting smaller, more sophisticated, new capabilities. There's some amazing things in the horizon that will change healthcare. I think that's just going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. But in the meantime, I don't think it's an equal apple-to-apple comparison to compare a consumer grade to a medical device, because I think they have different functions. In some way, this is trending and context. This is a snapshot trying to make a diagnosis of something.
Interesting. But then the trending in context would, I mean, be even interesting if there was like a snapshot that a physician could just see. This has been this person the last 90 days.
Right,
Oh yeah.
right, exactly.
There are certain tests that are exactly like that. Like, for example, hemoglobin A1C. Like, that's something that I have to get tested all the time.
Exactly.
We'll get to the glucose talk in a little bit, but as you were saying, with the tools actually becoming more and more advanced, obviously trying to get to medical grade can be a goal, but just the various metrics are way more than we remember, coming from step counts and even just, let's call it simple sleep tracking.
Right.
When did sleep apnea actually become part of the conversation? Because I remember when the Watch Ultra and the Ring were introduced, it felt like a new thing. And all of a sudden, people were being taught this terminology of what is sleep apnea? Why do I need to track this thing?
Yeah. What's really been interesting is that this journey that we've been on, initially we had using PPG signals to look at sleep stages. That's how we started. We wanted to see if we could describe or quantify the quality of sleep. That led to the various different stages of sleep: deep, light, REM, and so forth, and awake. And so based on that, as we defined the sleep score, what we have known is that there were 3 medical problems related to sleep. One is sleep apnea, insomnia, and then restless leg. Those are the top 3 medical problems on sleep disorders. And so we said, let's see if we can tackle sleep apnea. And we thought we could do that because sleep apnea, if you look at the methodology of getting that diagnosis, while it's in the sleep lab, it's really about the hypoxia states and how often you enter SpO2 less than 90 or 85. I forget the exact numbers, but there's actual calculation that
less
says,
than 90.
right, that if you fall for longer than X period, how many times an hour, that's how definition is used to classify someone with apnea risk or apnea.
Mm-hmm.
And so because we had an SpO2 sensor, we thought, hey, we know sleep stages, we know SpO2, I wonder if we could. So we started doing small trials, and then we found some interesting study or data, and then that led us to say, we think we can. We did a study. It actually showed that we were pretty darn good, and then we formally went to clinical trials and actually got software as a medical device getting cleared. And the great thing is 40% of the population don't know they have sleep apnea. So what we did was we just elevated the whole conversation, and you can see the appetite for sleep has been amazing. People want to get better sleep. They're like hungry because they want good night's sleep because for obvious reasons.
Right. A lot of people can't even tell why they can't lose weight, and it has everything to do with their lack of sleep.
Exactly. So I think it's stitching together, and we think sleep is not only important for obviously, the stroke risk, the dementia risk, all the things that we know about, but fundamentally, sleep, what we're finding is that people largely lay still. There's some movement, but compared to the day, they're laying still. So we can measure a lot of things. So it becomes a window for health where we can measure things, and the variation of various physiology can help us understand what's happening to the body, not just about sleep quality. So that's really how we went in, because we recognize, yes, there are sleep issues, yes, sleep apnea, and we worked on that and got it. But really what we're more excited about is sleep as the window for health.